Welcome everyone. So in today's lesson we are going to see what is the carbon footprint and how every one of us has a carbon footprint and how we can measure it. So the carbon footprint is a way of measuring the impact of your lifestyle on the nature, especially in terms of natural resources consumption and regeneration. And those two words are very important: resources consumption and regeneration. There are some things we use and cannot be used again, other things that instead can be reused again, and usually we refer to those mainly when we talk of renewable energies. So basically the idea of the carbon footprint is how much natural space does it take for nature to accommodate with your consumption. Now, there is more than one definition to carbon footprint, and there is more than one way of measuring it, and you will find on the internet very many different ways of doing it. But generally speaking, there are four main elements that are considered to be the main elements of the footprint, namely food, goods, mobility, and shelter. For example, when it comes to food, what is your diet? How much meat do you eat? Which kind of food do you eat? That is important because to produce 1 kilogram of meat requires, for example, much more water than it takes to produce 1 kilogram of vegetables. And if you think about it, it's quite simple to understand that, because when you eat meat, you are eating meat that comes from an animal that was already eating some other vegetables. So as you stand higher on the food chain, you are consuming more and more water, just to mention one element. When it comes to goods instead, the question would be how much wastage do you produce, how much rubbish do you throw away, over against instead how much are you able to recycle or to dispose of wastage in a way that recycling becomes easier. Do you differentiate the rubbish you throw away, or you just throw everything together? Transport instead would be to consider which means do you use when you need to move. When you go for holiday, let's say, do you travel by plane? And we will see that corresponds to a lot of emission of CO2. Or do you spend your holidays local? Maybe having a picnic in town, somewhere near, somewhere you can reach even on your feet, without consuming any fuel. Shelter instead means how big is your house and how does that fit the number of people who live in it. Do you have a big house for very few people, therefore consuming a lot of electricity for maintenance and lighting, much more than what would be needed? Or do you have a house that is smaller sized and maybe for a larger family, and therefore the consumption of electricity for heating and lighting and so on is much more efficient, or at least less environmentally problematic? So having said all of this, let's now move to the quiz. I will be asking you some few questions. Take hold of a pen and a piece of paper and write down the numbers according to the answers. I'm not going to read the questions, I'll just let you to read, but if you feel that some questions are a bit complicated or long for you to understand and to consider, I advise that you pause the video for as long as you need. And I will see you after the video and hear your comments at the end. Bye. So now for you it's time to do the maths and to figure out how many hectares is your footprint. Put together the numbers you collected. Remember that for most of them you were required to add some value, some numbers, but for a few instances you are requested not to add but to subtract. So be careful when you are adding and when you are subtracting. And after you have done this, I would like you to start the reflection. That will be in two phases. Phase 1, I want you here in class to share your results with your group mates and see with them how can you compare and contrast the results you've got in your hands. What can you learn about other people's results, and what does that help you understand? Is there anything you can change about your behavior? Phase 2 of the reflection will be pretty much the same, but I want you to do it at home. So take this video at home. I will give you the YouTube link. Take it to your family members or to someone at home, at least 3 people, and try to get them watch the video, take the results, and again compare and contrast your own results with theirs, and try to see if there is anything you can learn from this comparison and how you think you can change your behavior. Thank you for watching this video and have fun.